Hello, everyone. Welcome to FTX Podcast. Really happy to have with me again here for episode round 2, Caroline Ellison. Welcome, Caroline.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. I know in the first episode we kind of kicked off with your background, but for those that may have missed it, would you mind just giving a brief intro and background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Caroline. I've been a trader at Alameda for about 2.5 years now. Before that, I was a trader at Jane Street, trading equities for a couple of years out of college.
Cool. So there's been quite a bit going on since we last spoke. One thing I'd like to touch on initially and just get a bit of a brain dump of how the experience was the DeFi summer and what that meant for Alameda as a trading firm.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a weird summer for sure. I think it started out with, I guess, like comp farming was really the beginning of it. I think at the time I was kind of mostly just like weirded out and skeptical of the whole thing. And I remember us having like a big argument sort of back in whenever it was, June or July, about like, should we even do yield farming at all? And I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, this whole thing seems like weird, and aren't there risks, and like, what if these platforms get hacked, and like, it's like such a huge pain operationally, and accounting wise and all of that. I lost that argument, I guess, which I'm now very glad of. So I feel like that whole summer, for me, a lot of it was just about sort of, readjusting my expectations and being open to whatever happened. I think like every week or so, something like weirder than the previous week would happen. And I was like, okay, I just like mentally, adjusted myself to, okay, we're farming comp. And then it's like, oh, now we're farming these things that are like foods. And then now we're farming these like whatever weird like meta food things. I don't
know. That's literally what it was. This is the randomest tokens ever.
Yeah. I feel like I did manage to get away from my initial skepticism and end up embracing the mindset of like, great, gonna like go out and look for like whatever like the weirdest, dumbest thing people are talking about today, and like that's gonna be the thing I'm working on today.
And do you think you guys were pretty early in getting over that initial risk aversion, or was that kind of along the board, everyone just jumped in right away?
I don't know how we compare to others. I guess one thing is I just don't have the greatest sense of like who are the other people who are yield farming. Like I think it's a lot of retail. I think there are like some other sort of more institution type people like us, but I don't exactly know how it all breaks down.
Got it. And did you guys have to kind of come up with strategies, or was it just as simple as like, all right, these farm things, we're just going to farm them, see how it goes?
There was a lot of strategy, actually. I was sort of explaining our process to, I think, the devs at some point over the summer, and they were like, oh, wow, like there's all of this like thought that goes into it. I thought you guys were just like making memes about food this whole time. But yeah, I think there's actually a lot of tricky things in thinking about yield farming. There's sort of, assessing returns, assessing like the cost of capital, because there's sort of, different coins that you need to farm everything. There's, potentially thinking about the risks. There's thinking about like, whether you want to, like what you think the expected return of the tokens you're farming is. There's like a lot of sort of pretty complicated things of, you can like, use this token as collateral on this DeFi platform to borrow this other token and then farm with that and so on. So sort of one giant optimization problem, I'd say, of like converting, our capital base into like optimal yield farming.
And before this, had you used MetaMask before?
I don't think I think I basically never used MetaMask before this summer, yeah.
Oh, first time. And first exposure to composability within blockchain?
Yeah, that's right.
So as a quant, a traditional trader, whatnot from Jane Street, what was your perception of composability? What do you think about this whole blockchain space?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think it took me a while to sort of catch on to the possibilities. I think partly, partly like Sam talking a lot about it in the context of Serum and stuff made me realize that like, oh, there's actually a huge amount of potential here. But yeah, I mean, even in the context of like traditional DeFi, I guess, Ethereum-based DeFi, even though there are a lot of pains and frictions there, the composability aspects are still pretty convenient.
Would you say it's given you a bit more of a positive perception on like, and I'm not saying just Ethereum, maybe like also looking at Serum and Solana and the things that are going on there in general?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Serum was another thing where when we first started talking about it, I was like, well, like, what's the point? Like, why would you want to trade on a DEX? You can just trade on FTX or whatever. But yeah, I think thinking more about the composability and whatever general benefits of decentralization, I think there actually are kind of a lot of potential reasons.
Well, that's good to hear. I feel like it's very different from that conversation on the hike we had that about blockchain and whatnot. You remember?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't remember exactly what I said in that conversation. I think I was probably expressing a general skepticism of crypto, and I do think a lot of crypto projects are, don't have much real value probably, but I think there are potentially cool applications in crypto, definitely.
Yeah, no, totally agreed. I mean, there's a lot that are just straight up scams, but there's some diamonds in the rough in here that I think if they can kind of disinvolve over time, they'll turn into more solid foundation projects that maybe regular non-crypto people will use. So we'll see. I want to ask a little bit. So yeah, maybe do you have any more things about DeFi Summer you guys could share a little bit? Some things for you, like what was your role during all this? Were you super involved, or did you just still stay kind of more in the traditional market making side?
I was quite involved. I think that's like most of what I was focusing on for about a month or something. I think, I mean, for a good month there like wasn't much sort of trading on centralized exchanges. Like there just wasn't much interesting going on, and everything going on was in like yield farming and Uniswap trading. So I was pretty much just focusing on that. I think I like tried. I'm like not always the best at this, but I definitely try to put a lot of my focus on whatever seems like the most important and valuable thing at a time, even if it's like initially I was like, well, I don't know, yield farming is sort of can be annoying. There's like some interesting optimization stuff to think about, but also a lot of sort of annoying operational hurdles. So in some sense, I was like, this is kind of less fun than the normal stuff that I'm doing. But
and then when so kind of I can imagine after sushi swap stuff started cooling down again and you started shifting back, or like what's trading been like kind of after that summer and that interim period?
I guess there was after sushi it did kind of calm down a bit, but I think there was still sort of a bunch of good yield farming and DeFi related stuff to be done. Just had to like look a little bit harder for it. Then over the past, I don't even remember when various things happened, but definitely recently I've shifted to not really be focusing on that at all anymore, because these days all people care about is Bitcoin and other coins that were big in like 2017, I guess. So
yeah, is that surprising for you, just like as a trader, to see kind of the resurgence of coins that you traded when you started at Alameda?
Yeah, kind of. Like I feel like DeFi Summer was really weird, but it also kind of made sense in some ways in that I was like, okay, people are like probably like bored, like in their houses, like with COVID, whatever. They're like coming up with a bunch of like memes and like, coming up with like a bunch of cool things, new projects like popping up everywhere and stuff. Whereas right now, like, I mean, I can understand why like people are potentially excited about Bitcoin? Like, why are people excited about like XRP? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's the idiosyncrasies of the market. I mean, it is surprising though that, you know, there are coins, quote unquote, with more interesting things going on than a lot of these old school tokens. I mean, Litecoin has been getting tons of volume, and Charlie Lee sold everything at the top. Like, I don't even know, like, are people still developing there? What's going on? It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And so have you kind of like, I'd love to hear, so something I didn't ask in the first podcast, and if you're happy to touch upon it, I'd love to hear a bit about kind of what you started doing when you were trading at the beginning in Alameda, and kind of how your role at Alameda has evolved.
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, I guess I'd say when I started Alameda, I was sort of more focused on the stuff that I already knew better and was good at from Jane Street. So at Jane Street, my role was much more sort of on the quantity research side of things. My desk was like very automated, so I was doing a lot of sort of research studies, like thinking about our bots and algorithms and like how they should work. I think over time, my role has just become a lot more broad. I think I've basically tried to sort of learn basically all aspects of trading and get to the point where I can be like, you know, at least okay at all of them. Partly just because there's not that many people. And there was like a time when I was, you know, one of like 3 traders or something. So it's kind of important to be able to do everything. I think they're also just sort of, there are definitely like benefits to specialization, but there are also benefits to being able to understand a bunch of, you know, different parts of the system, so you can like be able to like make decisions or make good judgments about like how 2 of them might interact. I think there's like a fair amount of benefit in that. So I'd say nowadays I spend my time is kind of like split between a bunch of different things. I mean, over the summer it was a lot of like yield farming, but now it's back to, you know, spending some time researching or working on our models, sometime thinking about our like bots, like writing a bit of code sometimes, and then also sort of, you know, watching our overall positions, like more active trading, thinking about our, you know, capital allocation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So would you say you have more of a bird's eye view kind of on the whole operations now than initially?
Definitely. I think when I started it, there was kind of a lot of stuff that just took me a while to even understand, because I didn't have much context on like, you know, at Jane Street, I never had to think about like, oh, how do we allocate our capital base? It just like wasn't something that came up in my job at all. So
yeah, it makes sense. And you weren't having to worry about lending and stuff like that. Was an issue. And then, so I interviewed Nishad the other day, and he was speaking a bit about how initially Alameda was just very, very kind of ARB focused, and, you know, had really slow bot cycles and whatnot. And I'd love to hear a bit about kind of this development into a more traditional shop that, you know, obviously is not doing the same thing that the big HFT firms are doing, but in some senses it is similar. I'd love to hear a bit about kind of what's allowed the development to get there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I'd say it was kind of out of necessity. And honestly, I think like FTX has probably been pretty good for that whole process. Like, I'd say when I started out, we were pretty slow. I mean, like, you know, back in the beginning, I think our bots had like a cycle time of whatever it was, like 30 seconds or something. And then we, you know, eventually cut that down to like 1 second, which is, you know, fast to a human, but still ages in a bot world. And then, I think like sort of a big leap was when we started FTX and started providing on FTX, and realized like, oh, like if we're, you know, we've never really like tried to like provide this like serious amount of liquidity before. Like if we're providing liquidity and we're slow, like we're just going to be picked off constantly. That basically forced us to kind of do a whole overhaul of our systems to like cut down our latencies by, whatever 100 or X or whatever we ended up doing. Kind of, just go through and fix all the bugs. So.
And do you think that was also kind of made possible because a lot of the people on the Alameda team have already been working for so long together and kind of have such a good understanding of the infrastructure and how to part and parcel what things go to which person, or just pure necessity and any team could have done the same thing?
I think it was, I think I would agree with that characterization of our team as one that works well together. I don't think like the process of becoming faster was like, it probably wasn't even like one of our biggest challenges, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit more on a personal level, just because I know, you're obviously looking at charts and you're looking at prices and how things are moving and whatnot. Did you get a sense that this kind of Bitcoin fervor was starting, or did it also catch you a little bit by surprise?
I think it was, I think it was kind of surprising at first. I mean, I'd like to say I predicted it all and thought, however many Bitcoins before it all started, but I didn't. I mean, I think like it was, it sort of got less surprising as time went on. Like once it, went up to 12K or whatever, it was like, okay, maybe like people are excited about Bitcoin and it's going to keep going up. And then once it was up to, 15K, it's like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just going to go up to 200K now or something.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? What's the thinking USD guy? He has that, I don't know, there's that model, I don't remember what it's called, but it ends up with Bitcoin at like $1 million at some point per coin or something ridiculous like that. Another question I had for you guys is, I know, Alameda was a huge role as market maker on FTX forever, and it was very important, but now as other very big players are also market making and that responsibility is waning, are you guys having to shift gears or not, or is it just giving you guys more freedom?
I'd say it's basically just giving us more freedom. It feels really nice. I think a year or something ago, it was much more like, I spent a lot more of my time thinking about providing liquidity on FTX, just because I knew we basically had to be out all the time, or else like maybe there would be nothing out in the order book. It was huge. Huge challenge, and like not the most fun thing ever to work on, because like the reward is like, if you do well, then like, there's liquidity in FTX, but like that's not like, doesn't feel very like immediately rewarding. And if you do badly, then you lose money. Whereas, as a trader, the most fun thing is to like make money. I'd say now it's like sort of significantly less of a focus, just because we know that, if we're like, listing a new market, like, we have to be out there right away because we can't count on any other market makers to do so. But like in general, there will like pretty much be other market makers in every market, and we can kind of relax a bit and focus on making money, which is great.
That's awesome. And have you been doing a little more research stuff lately, or is that still kind of one of your big focuses? Personally?
I'd say I've been doing some lately, sort of a moderate amount. Like on the one hand, there's like I think there's a lot of fruitful stuff to be researching and putting in our models right now. Then the like countervailing factor is that like stuff has just been pretty crazy. So spending a lot of my time, I don't know, whatever, putting out fires or like things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. And a question I have for you too is like, I know the Alameda team is growing a bit, not super fast, but it's a solid team. Has that given you a little more like personal time and non-work space, or is it still go?
Not really. I feel like honestly, the correlation seems to like go in the other direction. If anything, the more people we get, the more time I spend at work.
Is that from a training perspective, or?
Partly a training perspective, partly just like I mean, it's not actually the effect of having more people per se, but just sort of being more responsible for our trading and and stuff in general. Like, I mean, when I started, it was much more like, you know, Sam was in charge of trading, and I knew that if I like wanted to take the weekend off or whatever, like, you know, it'd be fine. Like, he'd be covering it or something. And he's sort of just much less focused on our trading these days. So
Big boss Caroline has to be there present all the time. Watching everything. How does it work when someone starts with you guys? Like how does someone get ramped up to be able to kind of be operational by themselves?
Yeah, so I'd say it can kind of depend on like the person and their background, but generally like you kind of start out for like the first, you know, few days or week. It's really mostly like spending a lot of time you know, talking to them, having them like read Slack or Google Docs or something to like catch up on things, you know, answering questions, having them like watch us while we're trading or while we're doing things. And then after that, for like, I'd say like a month or two, there's a lot of sort of just giving them tasks and like starting with, you know, relatively simple tasks and ramping up to like more complex projects potentially. And yeah, then over time, ideally they become sort of more independent and start, you know, thinking more on their own about like what they want to work on and stuff like that.
Because overall it's a pretty proactive job. I mean, it's reactive because you guys have to put out fires a lot, but it's proactive as well, right? Because a lot of the time is people have to be figuring out what they're doing, or is that not true?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. I mean, partly like we're probably like not the best at management and could be like more more specific and like, you know, more explicit in delegating responsibilities. Partly like, I think just a lot of the job of a trader is like figuring out what to do in some sense. Like a lot of the important stuff that traders do is like sort of watch the markets, like look for, you know, interesting or important things and then like follow up on them. And I think like being able to like identify like, oh, these are the important things or something is like very valuable skill for a trader to have.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I mean, it's hard with so many different things going on to really be able to pinpoint what's noise or fluff and what's valuable. So that makes sense. Yeah. For the listeners, is Alameda looking for people? Are you guys still accepting resumes and stuff? Or
we're always looking for people, but pretty selective, I guess, in who we hire. We're not looking for like a large volume of people, more like looking for if we find like, you know, one or two really good people. So.
And is it kind of ideally people that may have been at, you know, I don't know, Susquehanna or Jane Street before, people with experience, or are you looking for like that? Is there a specific specification?
I think we found that like people with sort of prior experience at a prop trading firm are like probably the best fits.
That makes sense. And then, you know, I want to pivot here. Have you read any good books in the last few months? I know you're a big reader. I don't know if you've had the time, but.
What did I, I read an interesting book recently. It's called The Weirdest People in the World.
What's it about?
It's by an anthropologist at Harvard, I want to say, like Joseph Henrich. And it's it's pretty interesting. I don't know if I believe all of it. It's like a very sort of like wide-ranging book, but it basically starts out by talking about the sort of psychological differences between people in different cultures. Like a lot of the sort of psych studies that you like, you know, hear about in like freshman psych class in college or whatever are typically done on like sort of Western like college students from like rich countries. And it turns out like if you sort of do these studies on different, you know, groups of people in different countries, you often get like very different results. So sort of talking about the psychological differences you see there. And then the second part of the book is going into his theory of how these differences came about, which is pretty, it's pretty interesting. It goes back to the Catholic Church and their marriage and family related policies in the medieval era.
Is he supportive of that, or is he against that?
I'd say he takes a pretty neutral stance. I think he's like an anthropologist, so he thinks of his job as to like, describe cultures rather than to like judge them.
That makes a lot of sense. And this is called The Weirdest People?
The Weirdest People in the World, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I need some new additions there to the book list, and hopefully some of the listeners do too. And how about writing? Anything new on that front? You keeping up with it?
No, I haven't written much lately. Yeah, my family keeps asking me when I'm going to finish my novel, and I tell them probably when I'm not working at Alameda anymore, or at least when I take a long vacation.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's hard to write a novel when you're working 12 hours a day every day, if not more. But yeah, it must be pretty nice though that in some sense the team is growing. And like, do you enjoy having this more responsibility, or is it a burden?
I really like it. Yeah, it's definitely stressful at times, but I think it sort of like gives me a sense of like purpose and meaning or something to feel like, feel like I'm needed or feel like what I'm doing is valuable.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. And then my last couple questions for you here, Caroline. One is kind of, what do you see Alameda going forward? What do you see kind of the growth? What are things you'd like to see potentially for the firm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess there are like a lot of, I guess I don't think about the sort of like growth of Alameda as much as I like think about the growth of like FTX or Serum or something, just because I think there's like less sort of like obvious ways for Alameda to grow. But I think there's like a lot we can do to improve in our our models, our trading system, stuff like that. I could also thought a bit about expanding into other markets. I don't think it's like on the like top of our list right now. There's a lot going on in crypto right now, but maybe more medium term. That's like something we'll think about.
That's cool. That makes sense. Then my last question for you, Caroline, is kind of what I did the first time, but I think my listeners really appreciate. And it's, what are some words of advice you could leave for maybe college students or younger people that want to be a trader, want to be a quant? What are things they can focus on and put energy into that will help them get there?
Honestly, I think by far the best way to become a trader is to like get an internship or a job at a trading firm. Like, I think there are like a lot of, books or like podcasts or whatever that will like talk about trading, but like most of them probably won't be that helpful because like no one is really like incentivized to tell you how to do good trades, because you'll just, take their money if you do. So I'd say if you want to get into trading, definitely try to apply for trading internships and jobs. I guess, a lot of traders do. I feel like you talk to a lot of traders who've done things like, arbitrage markets and like online video games or something. So
damn, I should have been a trader with all my RuneScape history. I was like killing it on the Grand Exchange. Fuck, I'm in the wrong profession. And then from like a fundamental background though, would you say like computer science, math kind of approach? Or does it not matter that much?
I think it doesn't matter a ton. Like, I don't think I really like use that much of what I learned in college, like on the job. Like math is like a good major if you can do it, because it's like a signal that you're smart. If there's anything I wish I'd done more of in college, I'd say like computer science and programming. I did some, but like, programming is just like so useful generally. So I'm like I can write code, but I'm not like a good programmer, and I wish I were like a good programmer.
Got it. But I mean, you probably improve the more you do it though, right?
Yeah.
So it's still something that, I mean, you can become a good programmer, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Maybe I will. We'll see.
Cool.
It's like, it would be cool, but also I'm a lot of the other stuff to do. It's probably I can't justify spending lots of time on programming as like my main focus.
Yeah. Unless you take a long vacation, you could be like writing your book and writing programming language at the same time. One hand on each keyboard going on.
Yeah.
But cool, Caroline. I'm really glad you had some time to get on again. And thanks.
Absolutely.
Cool. It's good chatting. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.